This is Spotlight Omaha. Spotlight Omaha is a local podcast that highlights local businesses and influential movers and shakers in the Omaha business community. Spotlight Omaha is brought to you by Pixel Fire Marketing. Now, from the Pyramid Contractor Studios, the host of Spotlight Omaha, Jimmy Allen.
Good morning. Welcome into the Spotlight Omaha podcast, where we take you around the city of Omaha, introduce you to local business owners, influential figures, and people who are making an impact on our community. We are brought to you by Pixel Fire Marketing. If your company's not showing up at the top of search engine optimization, maybe you don't even have a website, pixelfiremarketing.com will ignite your social media presence, entice your ideal client, and engage your brand online. Check out pixelfiremarketing.com for more details today. Joining us inside the Pyramid Contractor Studios, Scott Dyer with Scott's Pest Control. Scott, thanks for being here, man. Appreciate
Absolutely.
it.
Thank you for having me.
Pretty overall encompassing thing, but what is Scott's Pest Control, and what are you guys doing?
So obviously, with it being a pest control company, our goal is to help keep the different pests, insects, things like that on the outside of your house. We want to keep them from coming inside. At the end of the day, they do live outside, so we're okay with that.
Sure.
Within reason, of course. Now, if you're going to have an abundant amount of them outside, we want to limit that amount that you have so we can be more tolerable when you are outside hanging out with your family and friends, things like that. But our main goal is to keep things from coming inside the home.
I want to take a look inside for a second. If somebody is to call Scott's Pest Control and they have maybe mice inside or something like that, how do you handle the issues inside to force them out? And what does that process look like?
So for mice, obviously, if they're working their way inside, they're coming from the outside from somewhere. So the biggest thing is we're going to want to take a look at the outside of the house, inspect around the whole perimeter of the home, see if we can find any openings, things like that, where they might be sneaking into and then working their way inside. Once we go and check out the inside, we can check for droppings, things like that. See if there's, let's say, in your pantry, they might be in there eating the kids' cereal. They might be in the garage where you left some bird seed or some fertilizers, things like that, just in the bag on the ground. So we just need to pinpoint where the hot spots are, and then we can set out baits, sticky traps, things like that on the interior to catch them and get them out of your house for you.
We can only relate things to ourselves, right? And I've never had an issue with mice in my house. I had this weird issue last year where we had a mouse crawled up in my intake of my truck and left some droppings and things like that. It's the only way I knew it was there, right? Yeah. Is there anything you could do to prevent that from the outside? Obviously, it's much different than a house, but like, does what you guys do help with the general property?
So we can put bait stations on the exterior of the home. That would actually have a poison inside of it. We can put that around the perimeter in hopes that they're going to go to that and eat it and die off before they're going to try and work their way into your house. Now, if you leave your vehicle outside, things like that, I mean, there's no guarantee. Right. I've actually had people call me before saying, hey, I had a mouse get up in my engine bay, chewed wires, things like that, to the point where they had to go to the dealership and get a whole new wiring harness. I think one of them was $8,000 just to get the new wiring harness because it was the main wiring harness to their vehicle. There is a tape that I've never used personally, but there's a tape that you're supposed to be able to put around your wiring harnesses on your vehicles that's supposed to deter them.
Sure.
Whether or not it works, I'm not sure personally, but I think it was $40, it's worth a try if you are having that issue. Obviously, once you get your wiring harness fixed.
Do you see a typical common denominator with houses that usually have rodent problems? Is there something close to woods? Is it just kind of hit or miss?
I mean, every house is different. Now, obviously, like some older homes might have been built, hundreds and over 100 years ago. They might have some cracks and crevices that, ground settling, your foundation, stuff like that might have some cracks in it. Sometimes people get their siding, fixed, things like that might not have been done properly. So there can be some voids and stuff like that. I would say for me, the number one spot I look for is usually the air conditioner lines going into your house. They'll usually drill a decent sized hole so they can fit all those, the plumbing and everything through it. But then once they're done, they just take a putty and they just put that around all those pipes to seal it up. Well, over time, that can get hard, dry, crack, fall out, and then that's just a highway for them to just walk right into your furnace room.
And I'm sure temperature has a lot to do with when we're having these issues as well. Is it fair to say it's spring and winter, or maybe?
I would say before wintertime is probably probably when I get the most calls. So I'd say fall, winter time is going to be the busiest time for those. Not saying that you can't have them throughout the entire year, but if we're going off of the highest call volume times, it'd be probably right before winter or during winter time.
How long does a typical pest control appointment take?
Depends on the situation. Everybody's house is different. You know, the severity of the issues. I mean, every house is going to change. So I would say, 30 to 45 minutes would probably be average. Sometimes depending on the issue, it could just be a small issue, might be a little bit faster. I mean, there's ones where like we do termite treatments. We did one last Friday and that was started at 9:30 and I don't think we got done till about 3:30. So
pest control is obviously very wide ranging. How many, obviously it probably depends on the issue, but how many times are you having to come back or do multiple treatments for issues?
So depends on the issue.
Because termites is one of those things, right?
Yeah. So termites, typically termites is going to be a one and done situation. So we have to, depending on where the termites are. So like the house that we were at last week, they had termite tubes in the basement. They had termite tubes in the garage, and then we had some on the outside of the house. So,
can you explain what a termite tube is for somebody?
So it's a little mud tube, and it just looks like a little veining that you can see. So they take that mud and they're creating these tubes, and they're constantly going up, like up on the side of your foundation walls, things like that. And I can show you some pictures of those if you want.
We'll put those on the overlay for you.
Okay.
They're right here.
Yep. So, but yeah, you look for these mud tubes, and then we have to, like, if it's cement, we have to drill a hole, and then we do that every 18 inches. And then on the outside, if it's just rock, mulch, or just grass, we have to dig a trench all the way around the perimeter of the home. And we inject the chemical 2 feet down into the ground every 18 inches all the way around the property. So you're basically creating a moat around the entire house. So when we do the termite treatment, once it's all done, we give a 5-year warranty. So if anything were to come back and be reinfested within the next 5 years, we go ahead and come back, spot treat any problem areas at no charge. So
is there anything in particular that is unique about what you guys do to Nebraska or the Midwest, or the extremes of extremely hot, extremely cold, and everything in between that we have to deal with?
I think we just kind of get a mixture of a little bit of everything. So is there anything that's kind of unique? I wouldn't say so. I mean, just about every state's going to have like subterranean termites, things like that. There's different types of termites. So there's drywood termites and all that stuff. So we're not going to really see those here. We're going to see those down in like Florida, things like that. There's going to be a different treatment process. Like if you go to California for termites, you go look up on a mountain and all of a sudden you just see this house and it's got a giant tent over it. Well, they're fumigating it for termites, things like that. Or we're not going to be doing the same type of treatments here in Nebraska.
Is there anything that you do that you guys have to tent for?
No, not me personally. No.
Okay.
There are fumigations and things like that. That's one of the things we don't do.
Can I ask why?
I don't think there is a big enough calling for it. I only met one other guy that owned a pest control company that he did fumigating and things like that, but it was to rail cars. So that was a separate license that you would need to have, but it's not one that for the type of work that we do, we would be required to have.
Is there, what would you say is the most frequently asked or commonly pest infected problem that you guys deal with?
Spiders and ants. Those I would probably say is probably 90% of all calls. So,
well, if people just let the spiders do their job, you'd be out of.
That's true, but they don't like the spiders. Sure. So that would be the top two. I would say if we got 10 calls in a day, 8 of them are spiders or ants. Those are going to be the most common things that people are seeing in or around their houses.
And we're catching up with Scott Dyer of Scott's Pest Control here on the Spotlight Omaha podcast, brought to you by Pixel Fire Marketing and Pyramid Contractors. When we talk about mentioned tent fumigations and things like that, is there a common misconception about what you guys do when people are calling you, or is pest control so black and white that people have an understanding?
I think people have a pretty good general understanding of what we do. I think there is, I don't know what you'd want to call it, but people think that every time you treat the house that you have to do the inside of the house and treat all the baseboards and things like that. That's not always necessary to treat. We in the pest control, we call those baseboard jockeys, where it's just, treat the outside of the house, go inside, treat the whole perimeter on the baseboards, throw chemical all over your house. if you can get the right products and put them in the right placement on the exterior, then our goal is to not have to put chemical in your house. That's where your kids, your family members, your pets, things like that are. Now, if you have an issue on the interior house, I have no problem putting a product down to take care of the issue. But if we're not having an issue, I would rather not put product in your house.
Have some people been upset by that? Because I think when you think
That they want me to put it in.
yeah.
Yeah. So
Okay.
I think we kind of get that stereotype of, from people doing pest control for the last, 30, 50 years or whatever.
Well, not
That's
commercially
just
too. That's how they do it in commercial
right,
buildings as well.
right. And that's fine. If you want me to do it, I don't have a problem doing it within reason. But if you don't have any issues, I would recommend against it, just because I don't need to put a product or any type of chemical in your house if you're not having an issue. And I my treatments might be a little differently than some other companies. I see a lot of companies that do quarterly treatments, where I will do every other month treatments, and I recommend doing it probably from March through November. March is kind of an interesting month. Like this year, was snowing and things like that. Now, other years, I think the year before, I started towards the end of February, just because it was starting to get nice out, and yeah, and everybody's calling, going, "Hey, I'm starting to see ants." So I usually tell people, if we're going to start in March, that's going to be the people that are more prone to having ant issues and things like that. We'll kind of jump the gun and get ahead of the game before they become an issue on the inside of the house.
I don't want you to give away the secret sauce of the blueprint to the success, but is there any particular reason you prefer the every other month model?
Most of the products that we use have a shelf life of that 60 to 90-day range. So if it's going to start breaking down in between 60 and 90 days, I'd recommend keeping up on that exterior treatment every 60 days or so, to where we're going to keep that good coverage around the outside of your house, to where you're not going to need me to come in and treat the inside. If we were to come out quarterly, first we'd have to come out between December and February, which in Nebraska there could be 6+ inches of snow on the ground.
Sure.
What's the point of treating? Like, are you still going to see a few insects in your house, a spider or two? Probably. But me personally, like, if it's not something that's a big enough issue, I would hate to charge for something that I don't feel is warranted to do. Now, if you are terrified of spiders and you want me to treat it, like, I'm more than happy to help you out, but I would rather try and save you the money and not have to do a treatment in the winter months if we don't have to.
Father's Day's coming up, so a lot of guys are going to be out flexing their dad muscles and
Yeah.
mowing their lawn. Do you see any correlation between when people are seeing issues and with lawn mowing or lawn service things?
Not typically lawn mowing, things like that. I would say fertilizing. I've noticed that when people are putting down fertilizers at the beginning of the year, there's an insect called clover mites. Those will start kind of running rampant. It's usually for a couple months, and then when the weather gets warm enough, they kind of go back into the grass and the soil, things like that, that I've noticed, and they are just a complete nuisance. So if you were to go to your house, if you had white trim, you see all these little tiny little red dots that are kind of hanging out all over your trim and stuff. Those are the clover mites. But I have noticed that if the ground's too wet, that can draw them out. If it's too dry, it can draw them out. And then they said if you're using a fertilizer with a higher nitrogen content, that can potentially draw them out too. So everybody.
When you say draw them out, you mean attract them?
It's going to draw them out of the grass, and then that's when they're going to get on the side of your house, and then they kind of work their way in. And as small as they are, good luck stopping them.
You mentioned there are a couple other places in town that do pest control.
Mhm.
What sets Scott's Pest Control aside and makes you guys different?
So right now, it is, I would say, 95% me, and then 5% my brother. He helps me out doing the termite work, things like that.
What's your brother's name?
Tony.
Shout out to Tony.
Yeah.
Sure, give him some
So yeah, love Tony. He helps me out. It definitely makes a difference having him with me. If I could steal him away from his full-time job and come work with me, I'd do it in a heartbeat. But at the end of the day, what I feel that sets me aside is right now, when you call, you get me. Now, hopefully here in the next couple of weeks, my brother Brian, his wife Jill, is going to start helping me answer the phone so I can get out and
it's a family affair.
I'm trying to.
Yeah.
I'm trying to. You take
Plug
care
the
of
phone number really quick since you
phone number is 402-650-8460.
We'll give it again, Dan, but go ahead. Sorry,
That works. But yeah, so Brian's wife Jill is going to be helping me answer the phones and things like that here coming up soon. But customer service and satisfaction is going to be my number one priority. So
why is that a big deal for you to be able to formulate those relationships with your clients and help build them?
well, so I mean, I've been doing pest control for a while, and before that, before I went full time with us, I was doing it part time, and I was in sales at auto dealership.
Hmm.
And customer service has always been, the most important thing to me, because at the end of the day, if you do a good job, these people are going to go out and they're going to do the work for you, right? Trying to drum up more business, things like that. So if I take care of my customers now, it's not just a one and done, it's going to be reoccurring. If they have an issue, they're going to call me back again. Or if they're talking to their friends or at their friend's house and they see some spiders, they're going to say, hey, call my guy, here's his number. So right now I haven't had to do any type of advertising. I mean, I have a website, I have a Facebook page, but besides that, I haven't had to do anything, and we are very, very busy right now.
Is the goal to scale to hire more people over the next coming years? What does growth look like?
So yes, like I said, I'd love to hire my brother on.
Does it make you nervous to do that?
Uh,
That was a deep sigh.
it
You said
doesn't.
yes.
It doesn't. I mean, obviously, it makes me nervous, but at the end of the day, I know we can handle it.
Mhm.
My biggest concern is I don't want to grow too fast. I've seen too many companies that go out and they go door to door and they get big real quick. So in the very beginning, their customer service and satisfaction is great, but then they get too big too fast, and then they can't keep up with it. And then that's when the services start lacking. Um, the quality just kind of goes downhill. And I would rather do a steady, slow growth rather than a rapid growth, so I can make sure that customer service and satisfaction stays where I want it to. Because at the end of the day, if your customers aren't happy,
They're not coming
they're,
back.
they're not coming back, and they're not going to recommend anybody to you.
When you sign up a new customer for the first time with Scott's Pet Service or Pest Control, excuse me, different company. Is it a maintenance plan? Is there a rotating? We want to come back X amount of times per year.
So everybody's house is going to be different, and the customer is going to know their house better than I am. So like we'll come over, we'll do an inspection. We're going to listen to what kind of concerns they have. A lot of companies in town now won't service your house unless you sign some sort of service agreement or service contract, things
Sure.
like that. We are one of the few that will actually do just a one-time treatment. We can set it up at the every other month. If you want to do quarterly, if you just want to do spring and fall, like we will work with you on what works best for you and your family. So at the end of the day, doing the every other month is going to yield you the best results on keeping things outside of your house throughout the entire season. But again, if they only have things come up, every so often, I have no problem helping them out as needed.
And again, we're catching up with Scott Dyer of Scott's Pest Control here on the Spotlight Omaha podcast, brought to you by Pixel Fire Marketing and Pyramid Contractors. So, what does the ideal client for Scott's Pest Control look like?
I mean, we help just about everybody.
Okay.
So, I mean,
Do you guys do both commercial and residential?
we do some commercial,
Okay.
mostly residential. So we have a handful of commercial properties that we take care of. Right now, with it just being majority myself, I can only take on so much. So sometimes the commercial side is going to be a little bit more demanding, because if they have an issue, they need to get that resolved as quick as possible. So as busy as I am, some of those I can't get to quick enough, and I will recommend them to other companies that I know and trust, to where I know that they can get taken care of in a timely manner and still have a good quality service.
People who watch the show every day are going to get sick of me doing this, and I apologize, but it's just incredible to me how it just organically keeps coming up, because the business world is so cutthroat and dog eat dog, and everybody's out for the almighty dollar.
Right.
And we've got to win. We've got to get to the top. But every single person that comes in here says, I work with this company or I work with that company. On paper, is your competition or would be considered a different option for what you do.
Right.
How is that the ability to have that luxury of giving business to somebody else that you can't get to, or vice versa, receiving business from somebody else? How does that help Scott's Pest Control?
I mean, it's fantastic, because I would rather, if I'm not specialized in a certain thing, or if I can't get to it in a timely manner, I would rather have the customer taken care of, whether that's with me or with somebody else. So my buddy Dan owns Genuine Pests and Wildlife, and then my buddy Matt owns another pest control company as well. So if it's something I can't get to in a timely manner, I will offer them, hey, here's these guys' information. They might be able to get to you sooner. If they can't, please call me back and we can set up a time that will work, that we can get out there. But I actually had a lady call me this morning. Apparently there's another Scott's Pest Control over in Iowa.
Don't call them.
Yeah, unless you live 4 hours away, then you can go ahead and call them, because I can't drive that far.
Sure.
But
You can.
I can. I'm not gonna. I'm not gonna. The bill is gonna be way too high, and you'll call somebody else.
Yeah.
But when she called, she thought I was that company, so she said she was from Knoxville, and I said, where is that? And then she said, well, I'm not too far away from here. And I said, I'm in Omaha, Nebraska. And she just started laughing, and she said, I called the wrong company. I said, well, no problem. What's your issues? And she explained it to me. And I said, well, are you up kind of like what major city? She goes, well, I'm not far from Des Moines. I said, well, I have 2 friends that have pest control companies in Des Moines. I'll give you their information, and you can call them, see if they can help you out. And she said, well, I wish you were the Scott that I was looking for, because I enjoyed talking to you and I appreciate your help. And I said, well, that's just what I'm here for. Whether you use me or use somebody else, if you have questions, I'll answer what I can. I don't know the answers to everything, and I know I never will, but I surround myself with people that are smarter than me. So at the end of the day, if I don't know the answer, I can go ahead, send a picture, ask a question, make a few phone calls, shoot out an email, get a response back, and then I can make my plan of attack on taking care of the issue for you.
You'd mentioned a minute ago that you guys don't do too much marketing or advertising. You kind of let social medias do that for you. We met through a networking group.
Yep.
I found your card in my wallet from a year ago, and I was like, hey, let's get him on the podcast. How has networking helped what you do?
I mean, it's great. I mean, at the end of the day, a lot of them, if you want to call them like cheerleaders for you.
Yeah.
Right.
I call them an extension of my sales staff.
Yeah, there you go. Yep. So whatever verbiage you want to use, it's nice because I get to explain to those people, weekly what I do and what I'm kind of looking for. And it could be something as simple as, they're on Westo Mom's, Facebook page, and somebody out there is like,
you probably won't find yourself.
No, I can't get to it, but I do get a lot of calls from that Facebook page, which I do appreciate.
I don't want to judge you, but you don't come off as a Westo Mom.
No. The beard gave it away.
Yeah.
But
and the great haircut.
Yeah, right. Yeah. See, I like it. But I have a lot of people, and they say, hey, so-and-so recommended you from, this page, or, hey, my neighbor, I saw your truck at their house last week, and now we're having this issue. They gave me your number, told me to give you a call.
Their mice came over here.
So, but yeah, the networking group has been great for us, keeping us busy, keeping us steady. So I do greatly appreciate them, and I enjoy seeing them every Wednesday.
Walk me through the process. If somebody goes to plug the website first, and then what does the process look like to set up an appointment?
Website, scottspestcontrolomaha.com. And then if you go and check on the website, it'll just show you the different services that we provide.
Scott's with an S. Scott's.
Yeah. Yep. And you can go in there. You can actually fill out an inquiry form, and it'll just ask, name, phone number, address, email, things like that. It'll ask you if you're looking for like mosquito control, general pest control, termites, things like that. And then it'll ask you like how many square feet your home is. So then we kind of have an idea before we give you a call, and we can kind of have a better idea and understanding of what we're kind of working with.
Give us the phone number and the website one more time.
Phone number is 402-650-8460.
And Scott's Pest Control, Omaha.com.
Yes, sir.
We covered a lot. Is there anything about Scott's Pest Control that we haven't mentioned to people?
So general pests, mice, termites, mosquito treatments. That is a good one to take care of too. Like I have a cornfield behind me, and I have a silt pond right next to me at my house. So I'm
glad you brought that up. Pools.
Pools.
How do you guys help with pools in the outdoor space?
So pools, we can kind of treat around the perimeter of the pool to a certain extent to try and help keeping, different insects from getting into the waters, things like that. But besides that, it's not like we can put anything obviously into the water or anything.
All right. Well, if you have pests in your life and you want to get them controlled, check out Scott's Pest Control, Omaha.com. Give Scott and his team a call. They'd love to come service your home. Thanks for doing this, man.
Hey, appreciate it.
This has been the Spotlight Omaha podcast. We'll be back tomorrow at 11. Thanks for joining us. If you're watching on YouTube, like and subscribe. It helps the channel out a ton. Thanks for being with us. We'll see you tomorrow. Thanks for watching.